What's going on, guys? Louis here. Today bringing to you the HM-2030 refining topology to achieve a quality mesh. The details of geometry can negatively affect the quality of the mesh, and yet they might not be necessary for the analysis. So when we modify the topology to simplify the part, we must make a judgment if the increased quality of the mesh is paying off the lack of that detail. If it is, then it's cool. So we're going to be looking at how to suppress small edges, split surfaces, and remove fixed points. Let's get down to it. Start by retrieving the clip underline refine HM file, and let's create a preliminary mesh. In the 2D page, go to the Auto Mesh panel, select the displayed surfaces. See that we have only the middle surface component being displayed. Then in the Size and Bias subpanel, type 2.5 for element size. Leave the mesh type as mixed. Switch from interactive to automatic mode and click Mesh. Now let's check out the quality of this mesh. We see that it's not formed by perfect rows and columns, and that's because the geometry is full of small features. Click Return and go to the Tool page. Check Elements panel. Click the Length Smaller than 1 button. Then HyperMesh displays the element that failed that check. Notice these elements that fail. The problem is not the length itself. It's that usually when they have a dimension much smaller than the value we set up, they also form high angles and small angles quadrilaterals, which are the real problem. If we set the Assign Plot option and check the max angle, we see that they are really the ones that show off. Let's try to fix that, so turn off the elements of the component in the model tree. Back to the Geom page, open the Point Edit panel and click the Replace subpanel. Check the Display Fixed Points option, and with the Moved Points selector active, pick this point. Activate the Retained point and pick this one. Then click Replace and HyperMesh joins these two. HyperMesh will always put a node where a fixed point is, and that's why we had that element with a small length here. These points over here are the leftovers of our suppression of pinholes in the tutorial HM-2020, and they are also forcing nodes to be where they're at and are kind of disrupting the mesh a little here. So let's get rid of them by going to the Suppress subpanel. In the Add Cursor column, check the point selector is active and pick those 4 points. Then click Return. HyperMesh will also put the element's edges wherever we have an edge. So creating edges is actually a way to control our mesh. Let's go to the Surface Edit panel and select the Trim with Node subpanel. In the Node Normal to Edge column, click Node and select this point. Click on Lines and select this edge. So a perpendicular line is created. When we remesh this, we'll have a row of elements with edges on this line. Let's do that again over here. And also over here. Now let's try to control our mesh pattern on this hole. Go to the Trim with Surface subpanel. In the With Plate column, with the Surface selector active, pick these 5 surfaces. Then click on N1. Press and hold the left mouse button, move it over this outside edge. Notice that the cursor changed to this square with a dot in the center. So make sure just this edge is highlighted, then release the mouse button. Now click on Anywhere along this edge for N1 and N2. Open the distance panel using the hotkey F4. Go to the 3 nodes subpanel and do the same thing over the edge of the hole. Click and hold, pass over, release. Click anywhere on the hole's edge to select N1, N2, and N3. These are just temporary nodes that we will use to create a node in the middle of the hole. So now click on Circle Center and HyperMesh creates that node. Hit return once, then click on the B selector and pick the node in the middle of the circle and click trim. HyperMesh then creates an edge passing through the middle of the circle and perpendicular to the outside edge. Now see this edge? This one is actually forcing the creation of elements with a small length due to this point in the notch. So let's suppress it. Go to the Edit panel, Suppress subpanel, pick these 5 lines, and click Suppress. Now we're ready to remesh our part. So back to the 2D page, AutoMesh panel. Remember to turn the elements visualization on again in the model tree. Everything is set right, so just select Displayed Surfaces and click Mesh. Now check the New Mesh in the Tool page. Check Elements panel. Click on Length again. Now we see that only these 2 fail since we haven't dealt with these 2 notches. I'll leave for you guys to try to refine that. So let's remesh it using a new function. So back to the AutoMesh panel, go to the QI Optimize subpanel. Check that element size is set to 2.5 and mesh type is set to mixed. Click Edit Criteria and target element size type 2.5 and click Apply. Then OK. Select the displayed surfaces and click Mesh and it changes some of the elements. Now let's check the quality index. Click Return and go to the Quality Index panel. See that the comp QI value is set to 0.01, which is a low value, indicating that the overall quality of the mesh is good. In this panel, we can check some of the quality metrics. For example, it displays that the worst minimum size in the mesh is 0.95, and that the fail value for this metric is set to 0.5. If we change the display thresholds to warn, then it displays the elements that are in the warning zone and shows the numeric stats over there. That was it for today, guys. We have seen some features to refine the topology and enhance our mesh. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.